It was the summertime, and back then, there were no cell phones, no internet, no distractions, just neighborhood kids having fun. We played games, we played hide and seek, we played jump rope, double dutch, and that was my favorite. That's the one I loved the most. And I was good at it. I was popular, I was outgoing, I was smart, and I was also a very kind person and made friends easily. I was always moving, playing, running, riding my bike. Every summer day was an adventure. One day, a girl, her name was Crystal, was visiting her family from out of town. She was from the South and she had never learned how to jump rope. So she stood there awkwardly, embarrassed, wanting to join the fun but just not fitting in. In that moment, I had a choice. I could have ignored her, laughed at her, or just continued enjoying rope. I could have been mean, many kids were. But something inside me said, help her. So I did. I taught her how to jump rope, how to find her rhythm, and I even taught her how to turn. I welcomed her in, no judgment, no ego, no reward, just kindness and patience, working with her until she was fully able to jump double dutch. I didn't know it then, but that moment revealed something that remained true and consistent throughout my life. I was born to teach. I was born to lead. And I was born to uplift people who didn't believe within themselves that they could do it. That was the beginning. Fast forward 40 years. That same girl from North Philadelphia became a drill sergeant, an Army instructor for 13 years, a regional director of instructors, a sergeant major in the United States Army, serving for 37 years. Some of the same qualities that made me help Crystal find her rhythm in double dutch became the backbone of my leadership style. I was a leader at heart, always the one people trusted, looked up to, and always the one people gravitated to. I was easy to talk to and was always willing to help others. Today, I'm still doing the same thing that I did as a child, teaching, coaching, guiding, helping people who don't believe, raising up the next generation of leaders. From the Army to creating and building Divine Fitness to operating summer camps for 15 years to mentoring girls, and now I am pioneering health equity through research and innovative programs. The mission never changed. Inspire greatness, create leaders, and make the world a better place. There I was, 26 years old, a young Army soldier stationed at Fort Hood, Texas. I was in week 3 of a grueling 30-day primary leadership development course, a program that I had prepared for and trained for tirelessly. I wanted to lead. I wanted to excel. I wanted to make my mark. But that morning, everything changed. I found myself on sick call, expecting a routine check. But instead, the medic walked in with my test results. And just like that, my world shifted. I was pregnant. I remember just staring at the wall, trying to process the words. I was already a single parent, unmarried, trying to build a career that demanded strength, discipline, and perfection. But this wasn't just any pregnancy. The father of my unborn child was my superior leader, a relationship that the military calls fraternization, a relationship that could end careers, a relationship that could lead to legal action. In that moment, it felt like the weight of the entire U.S. Army fell on my shoulders. I had worked so hard for PLDC. Getting selected was an honor. Passing meant promotion and new opportunities. But pregnancy was grounds for immediate removal from the course. Everything I had trained for, everything I thought my future would be, was suddenly on the line. I remember sitting there, uniform crisp, boots laced, hands trembling, asking myself, how did I get here? And more importantly, what was I going to do now? I felt lost, perplexed, pulled in two directions, my duty as a soldier and my reality as a woman whose life had taken an unexpected turn. I didn't know which way to go or how I would survive the consequences that were unfolding. But what I did know then is that this moment, this crisis, wasn't the end of my story. It was the spark that would shape my leadership, my resilience, my faith, and eventually the mother, the woman, and the soldier, and the leader I would become. In that moment at Fort Hood, I couldn't see the future. But today, I can look back and say, that moment did not break me. It built me. And it became the first chapter of a much bigger purpose for my life. I was in the heart of Detroit, Michigan, staying at an upscale Marriott hotel. That morning had started at 3 a.m., up before the sun, to catch a 6 a.m. flight. I landed in Detroit at 8:30, grabbed a rental, and was on site by 9 a.m. sharp. I worked straight through until 5 p.m. By the time I got back to my hotel, I was exhausted in a way that sleep doesn't fix. My body shut down. I laid down and fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up, I was still groggy, but I checked my email. That's when everything shifted. There was a message from my boss stating that my request to take a required professional development course was being denied, and that if I wanted to participate in it, I would owe her time. I stared at the screen in disbelief. I had already put in over 12 hours that day, yet I was only being paid for 30 hours a week. I had recently petitioned to return to full-time status after going part-time to care for my mother, who had been sick and had recently passed away. I was given everything I had, yet this was the response. I was angry, I was hurt, and I was deeply conflicted. I knew that if I responded to that email in the moment, I would likely lose my job. I knew I didn't want that. So instead of replying, I closed the email and I opened the next email in my inbox. Strangely enough, it was an email titled Chinese Proverbs. One line stopped me cold. You can buy a watch, but you can't buy time. That proverb spoke directly to my spirit. Still unsettled, I went downstairs to the hotel bar and restaurant and sat at the bar, not for a cocktail, but for just a cup of hot tea. The bar had a beautiful green ceramic countertop, and it sat in the midst of a nice restaurant where I had eaten earlier that day. The tea was very soothing to my soul. However, I still needed to process what had just happened. Once I finished my tea, I decided to go up to the rooftop track. The air up there was cool and crisp. As I walked, I prayed. I asked God for clarity because I truly didn't know what to do. By the third lap, I heard it. That still small voice said, resign. I stopped walking. No, I said out loud, that can't be the answer. Resigning without another job, that felt reckless, terrifying. My job defined me at that point in my life. I was already grieving my mother, and I didn't want to unravel everything else too. But the answer didn't change. It came with peace and with explanation. These people are not paying you what you're worth. You've been working in a hostile work environment for months. Your children need you now more than ever, and your income has already been partially replaced. That night, I barely slept. I wrestled with fear, identity, and uncertainty. Even though I had been working in a hostile environment for most of that year, leaving still felt impossible. I didn't want to be one of those people whose entire life unraveled after the loss of a parent. I prayed on it, I sat on it, and a few days later, with clarity and conviction, I made the decision. I resigned. Looking back now, I can say without hesitation, that decision was one of the best decisions I made in my life. It taught me faith, not the comfortable kind, but the kind where you build the bridge as you're walking across it. It freed my spirit. It allowed me to finish my school semester strong. And at the very end of the semester, I created a strategic plan for my health enterprise that later became Divine Fitness and Health Services Incorporated. What felt like a risky resignation was actually an act of obedience that became the foundation of my entrepreneurship. Divine Fitness wasn't born out of convenience or comfort. It was born out of courage, faith, and the decision to finally honor myself. I don't even know if I'm doing life right. I'm trying, but sometimes I just feel like a failure. Come here, baby. I know you may feel like you are failing, but listen to me. There is greatness inside of you. And I'm not saying that just because it sounds good. I'm saying it because I am you, and I've already lived what you haven't seen yet. Greatness? I feel like I'm barely holding it together. I'm a single parent, I'm in school, I'm living back at home and working, and some days I just feel like it's all too much. And I feel like I'm failing. You're not failing, you're being forged. And one day you're going to look back at this season and realize you weren't being punished, you were being prepared. Prepared? Prepared for what? Prepared to lead, prepared to serve, prepared to stand in rooms that you don't even know exist yet. But first, you have to stop thinking you're supposed to look like everyone else. Because here's the truth. Your path is not intended to look like anyone else's. You are a trailblazer. You are going to carve a lane that's so unique, people won't even be able to compare it to anything else. That sounds nice, but I'm just tired. And sometimes I feel like God has forgotten me. Oh, sweetheart, God did not forget you. God is guiding you, even in the ups and downs, even when you're feeling confused, and even when nothing makes sense. He is ordering your steps, even the hard steps, even the lonely steps, even the steps where you're crying and asking Him just to give you a sign that you're going to be okay. And I know you don't feel this yet, but God is in control of your life. And no matter what it looks like, no matter what it looks like. So am I ever going to be more than this? Or am I always going to struggle? Let me tell you what's coming. You are going to have a long Army career. I'm talking legendary. You are going to rise to a level that less than 1% of people achieve. You're going to be a sergeant major. You're going to finish school. You're going to get all your degrees, your associates, your bachelor's, your master's, and even your doctorate degree. You're going to be a doctor of health science. God is building the leader inside you. One of the greatest challenges facing our communities today isn't a lack of willpower. It's physical inactivity, and it has reached pandemic levels. Physical inactivity is now the fourth leading risk factor for death globally. It fuels chronic conditions like diabetes, heart disease, and hypertension, conditions that disproportionately impact underserved and minority communities. And when you combine inactivity with limited access, low trust, unsustainable wellness options, the result is something even bigger than poor health. It's health disparities. A crisis that cost our healthcare system and our nation more than $435 billion each year. But it costs communities far more in the quality of life and preventable deaths. What's striking is this. For much of my life, I didn't know health disparities existed. It wasn't until I was in my master's degree program that I was formally introduced to something that stopped me cold: health disparities in minority communities. I remember reading the research, seeing the data, tracing the patterns. Chronic disease wasn't random. Physical inactivity was not accidental. Entire communities were being set up to fail, not because they didn't care about their health, but because they lacked access, education, safe spaces, and sustainable opportunities to move. That really shook me. And that's when I realized something powerful. It wasn't just a health problem. It was a systems problem. And systems, when redesigned with intention, can change lives. Today, I stand at the intersection of leadership, science, and service, exactly where my journey has been leading all along. The biggest challenge in underserved neighborhoods isn't motivation, it's environment. Too many communities face high rates of preventable chronic disease, limited safe spaces to move, wellness programs that aren't culturally relevant or financially accessible, health messages that don't reflect real life, and asking people to just do better without changing the system around them doesn't work. So I decided to help redesign the system. Today, my work centers on using movement as a tool for equity, empowerment, and transformation. That means building community-based fitness and wellness programs that meet people where they are, integrating exercise as medicine in healthcare and everyday life, designing evidence-based programs that blend fitness, education, and coaching, and serving populations that are most impacted by disparities. I am also training and mentoring the next generation of leaders and instructors and health advocates. This isn't about workouts or surface level change. It's about building infrastructure for healthy living, one class, one neighborhood, and one life at a time. Right now, our country is in the midst of a healthcare crisis, which fortunately is leading to healthcare transformation. And it's not because someone suddenly had a new idea, it's because the current system is not working. Across our nation, and especially here in our state and city, regions are being forced to transform because the healthcare model that we relied on for decades has become unsustainable. And in too many places, it's becoming inaccessible. In fact, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services has allotted recently $100 million in grant funding to fund 30 programs that are focused on creating sustainable prevention models. Additionally, in November 2025, they approved insurance reimbursement for primary care physicians to conduct a 10 to 15-minute physical activity assessment at their patients' visits, and also to write their patients an exercise prescription instead of prescribing a pill. They can then refer them to organizations in the community, fitness resources such as Divine Fitness. Once this practice becomes policy, it has the potential to positively impact underserved communities that need it the most. That's the paradigm shift that is taking place. The future of healthcare will not be centered only in hospitals and clinics. The future of healthcare is being rebuilt in community. A new model that is emerging puts community engagement, prevention, trust, and access at the forefront of health and wellness. Exercise has been shown to treat, better manage, and also prevent over 35 chronic conditions. And Divine Fitness is poised to be an industry leader in this shift, because Divine Fitness was not created simply to help people lose weight. Divine Fitness exists to help solve a national problem through community-based solutions. We offer community and evidence-based health and wellness programs that are innovative, culturally responsive, relationship-driven, and designed to meet community members exactly where they are. And that's what makes Divine Fitness different. We're not trying to replace the healthcare system. We are building the wraparound community-based infrastructure that healthcare has been missing, especially for communities of color. This experience of making an entrepreneur has been tremendous for me. It has been wonderful. I am so grateful for the opportunity that I had to just tell my stories. That just telling my stories created such a level of emotion for me. And so I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to be able to tell my story. I'm grateful for the opportunity to feel like I'm in a safe environment, like I can, like I'm very welcome. And then I got an opportunity to also showcase myself. And so that was beautiful. So I'm just so grateful for the warmth and for the kindness and for the support that I felt going through this journey and this opportunity, the opportunity to, again, just tell my story and just create a lasting memory. So I just want to say thank you to the crew. Thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome. Thank you for welcoming me and making me feel at home and relaxed. And I honestly want to do it again. It was so much fun. So thank you so much.
I was 17 years old, and I thought I might die on a city bus in the Bronx. It was 1975, and it was just an ordinary day, me riding home from school, until it wasn't. I come from a middle-class African-American family, and we have a lot of values, but the highest one is education. And about 10 years before this, my parents moved us to an all-white neighborhood in the Bronx for a better education and what they hoped was actually going to be a better life. Well, riding home this day, the bus stops about a mile from where I normally get off, and I don't know why. So I get up and I look out the front window, and I see a mob of about 50 white young males with red bandanas on running toward the bus. And I see that they have baseball bats, and I'm starting to be terrified because I look around, I see the only black people on the bus, the bus driver, a 17-year-old boy, and me. So I know I'm in trouble. They come and they surround the bus and they start to turn it over. Now, I gotta say that in that moment, I don't know that I've ever been more terrified, but also more aware of what's going on. Because you see, in that moment, I'm thinking, wow, this is horrible. Like, I'm meeting conflict at its most violent edge. But one thing that I know about conflict that I actually learned from this event is that conflict is energy. So it can be used for destruction or it could be used for transformation. And that's what I've been doing in all of my work. I've been working with people, teaching them how to transform conflict. I have the honor and the privilege to work with companies who really want to understand how to communicate better, particularly in times of crisis. I have a master's degree in education. I have an honorary doctorate for all of the work that I'm doing in the world. I'm an author and I'm a trainer. And I want to tell you a little bit about a company that I've been working with for a while. When they brought me in, leadership was really at each other's throat and nobody was producing well, morale was low. And so I came in and I taught them how to communicate better, to really be able to transform their morale. And their leader, who was actually conflict averse, he learned and is continuing to learn skills in how to run toward conflict and not away from it. So back to the bus, they start to try to turn it over and a bus comes across the street filled with African-American students and they run over there and I jump off with a teenage boy and he's terrified. It's his first week in the neighborhood. I show him how to get home and then I take myself home. But on that walk, I remember something very clearly. Though I was shaken, I also knew that somehow I am supposed to help people really learn how to do better in situations like this. And so I have been stepping into conflict ever since that day. I'm standing by my mom's hospital bedside, and the nurse says to me sweetly, "It's okay, you can talk to her. Even though she's gone, she can still hear you." And what I'm thinking in that moment is, I am never going to hear my mom's voice ever again. How did we even get here? I mean, one day she says she's not feeling well, and the next she's in the hospital. 3 years earlier, she had survived cancer. And she was just working every day to get to that 4-year mark that her doctors told her would mean that she was cancer-free. And now she's in the hospital suffering. And I'm thinking, how are we going to live without her? It was the most horrible experience of my life. And I'm thinking, it's even more horrible because we were right upstairs all night long. And she died alone. It took me about a year to come out of the depression that led me into. And in that time, I kept thinking, wow, am I ever going to really get through this? And then I realized something. I realized, though this was the most horrible event in my life, it also freed me up to do something that I hadn't thought about doing before. You see, I'd become a new mother 13 months after she passed, and I decided that now I had the freedom to parent how I wanted to parent. I've been in conflict resolution for about 10 years, and I really loved the skills that I was learning and wanted to apply them to my parenting. My husband was on board too, so that was awesome. And then we started thinking about what are the things that we really don't want to bring into our parenting experience. As African Americans, we grew up with, don't be in grown folks' business. Don't talk back. I'll give you something to cry about. And we knew that's not what we wanted to do. So here I am with the opportunity to transform not only the skills in my parenting, but in my business too. And I can tell you my clients loved the way that I was teaching them to do what I coined as breaking culture. It's a term that I use not only in my life, but in my business world. And what it gave them the opportunity to do, and continues to give them the opportunity to do, is to no longer approach conflict in a way that is how we usually do it, but to actually think about what are the things that I've been taught that I no longer want to include into the way that I go into conflict. So now I am giving my clients and myself an opportunity to do conflict differently. What I share with them around my vulnerabilities and my mistakes that I make not only in business, but in life, really helps them to see that when they understand conflict, they can break patterns that they no longer want in their life. But let's face it, you got to do more than make it an idea. You actually have to do the work. And that's what I'm here for. It's 2009, and I'm in the lobby of my building in the Bronx. The phone is pressed to my ear because I'm talking to the assistant to the director of $1 million project that I'm consulting on. She asks me a question, and I answer her. And it's a lie. Not a big lie, nothing that's going to blow things up, but automatic, an easy lie, something that I'm used to telling. I hang up the phone, and I hear this voice saying, call her back and tell her that you lied. I'm thinking, what? No, I can't do that. I'm literally standing in my lobby, screaming to myself, what's she going to think about me? I absolutely cannot do that. To understand how important this moment is, I got to tell you how we got here. I grew up being deeply controlled. My sister and I both had to act a certain way. We had to talk a certain way. We had to say things that would only please my mother. Otherwise, there were going to be big consequences. So I learned how to lie pretty quickly, and I got to tell you, I got excellent at it. I lied to get out of conflict. I lied so that I wouldn't be embarrassed. I lied so that there wouldn't be consequences. But the lies really led me to a place where I could no longer stand in my truth. I didn't even know what it was. So in that moment, I'm thinking, what am I going to do? Well, about a week before this happened, I actually was thinking, I just don't feel spiritually connected the way I used to when I was going to church. You know, I grew up in the church. My husband and I were raising our sons in the church, but I didn't feel close to God. So I started really getting more into scripture and praying more. And I ran across a scripture that really hit me. It said, if you cannot be trusted with little, you will not be trusted with much. I thought, whoa, wait a minute. I don't want a little life. I want a big one with legacy and influence that helps people. So I got to do something. So I said, all right, God, I'm all in. What do I have to do? But I didn't hear anything at first. Standing in that lobby, when I heard that voice, I knew this is my little. So what I do? I called somebody who knew me. I called my cousin, and I told her what happened. And she and I had this pity party, and she gasped, and then she said, but you're going to do it, right? I said, of course I am. I have to. So I picked up the phone, and I called Mary. Mary, this is Lynn. She said, hi, Lynn. I said, I called you back just to tell you that I lied to you before. Pause. Silence. Then she finally says, I don't understand. And I said, I'm sorry. What I told you before was a lie, and I apologize for lying. Again, silence. She said, that had to be hard, Lynn. Thank you so much for letting me know. And that was it. In that moment, it was over. I apologized. She accepted it, and it was done. And I have to tell you, It freed me completely. From that moment on, I stopped lying immediately. And what that has done is it has taught me how to teach my clients that the truth, even when it's inconvenient, is incredibly important, because the patterns that you know that you have, they are simply learned and practiced. That doesn't mean they're permanent. It means you can unlearn them. But you have to have the courage to take that first step, to face them and say, I'm done living like this. If I could sit on the couch and talk to my 21-year-old self, wow, what would I say? It wouldn't be a lot. I know that I would say 3 things that would help her to be able to master anything. The 3 things are integrity, trust in God, and learn how to engage and resolve conflict masterfully. Do those 3 things, especially earlier in life than I did them, and when you walk into rooms, you will change everything about them. Let's start with integrity. You heard my story, right, where I lied, and then I had to go back and admit that I lied to the person. Integrity is everything, because it isn't just about what you do when people are watching. It's what you do when they can't see you. Integrity means that you move through the world in a way that people know they can trust you. That when you give your word, it is what you say, and it's done. That moves mountains in business and in life. The second one, trust in God. I got to tell you, I'm a God girl. Hey, nothing's going to change that. Now, that may not be your language, but I hope that you have something bigger than yourself that you hold on to. You see, one of the things that really helped me to develop my faith was in 2020, we lost my husband. And right at the time that we lost him was when COVID came in, and New York City was in fear. It was chaos. Nobody knew what to do. Here we are planning a funeral, and then a week later, we have to shut in. The world shuts down. So I'm grieving hard, and then my 2 sons, they're grieving terribly. And I'm thinking, there's something that nobody else knows. You see, I got sick. I'm not talking about I don't feel well. I'm talking about I can't eat, I can't hold anything down, I can't sleep. I don't know what's going on with my body, and I'm terrified that I might have COVID. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my sons might lose both of their parents. So I had to hold on to faith in this time, because at that time, you couldn't get a COVID test unless you qualified. So I had to believe that not only was I going to get the test, but I was going to find out what was happening, and I was going to live. And all 3 of those things came through. So my faith really held it together for me. The last thing is what I make my living off of. You've got to learn how to engage productively and powerfully in conflict situations so that you can use skills and techniques to resolve them. Not just manage them, but resolve them. Because when you do that, every room you walk into changes. People understand that conflict isn't something to fear, to run from, but it really is something that can add a lot to our lives. It can really help us to shift things so that communication is better and that the lives of everyone around us are better as well. Relationships strengthened. You know what I mean? So yes. Integrity, have faith in God, trust God, and then learn to resolve conflicts masterfully. Do those 3 things, 21-year-old Lynn, and the world changes for you. So what's next for her communication solutions? What's next for Dr. Lynn, known as the conflict closer? Not because I eliminate conflict, but I bring people closer to it so that they can actually see how to close conflict by understanding and communicating more powerfully. So what's next is, I gotta be direct about something. Companies are facing a problem and they're only facing it on a surface level. They're throwing all these programs and trainings at it. They're talking about culture and engagement, but they're not getting to the roots. Because underneath burnout, underneath quiet quitting, underneath morale problems are conversations that just aren't happening. Conversations that people are simply avoiding. And unless they get to the root, they're never going to resolve it. They may manage it. They may even try to avoid it. And lots of them are blowing it up. But they're not resolving conflict. So that's where I come in. And I'm going to take you to something in real time. I'm standing in the middle of a meeting of 50 senior leaders in a Fortune 500 company. And HR and finance are going at each other. And everyone in the room has a really different stance, but very few people are listening. Some people are really drawn into the drama, and other people are checking out and wondering, when can I escape this? After the meeting, I meet with my client, the VP, and I say, hey, you gotta get to the root of what's going on. Let me tell you what I see, right? And then after the conversation, I give him a clear and actionable plan to resolve it, to start having the kinds of conversations that are going to get to why people feel what they feel and get to solutions that help people to not just move through, not blow it up, but actually get to solutions that everyone can feel good about. That's what I do. That's what our company does. And we're going to do more of that. But we're also going to do something that we discovered by going to the roots. And that is, we're moving beyond business. We're moving to shifting these skills into your life. So we're doing parenting work. My youngest son, Justin, and I, we are known as the dynamic duo. We are mother and son working to resolve conflicts, not just on a skilled level, but on a generational level as well. We get people really talking about what the differences are in the generations in the way in which we resolve conflicts. So our goal, a small one. We are going to spark 1 million conversations worldwide. And in 3 years from now, we are going to be the premier organization that companies and people come to when they want top-tier skills in having communication that's effective and resolving conflicts well. That's right. We are going to teach people how to engage in conflict in ways where they don't run from it. They don't avoid it. They actually use it to do better. Because conflict isn't about just getting rid of it, right? That's not what it's about. Because when we avoid it or try to just get rid of it, then we escalate it. But conflict is about strengthening relationships, understanding each other deeply, and coming to a place of clarity and understanding that helps all of us move forward together. So that's what you're going to see us doing in the next 3 years. Why do people work with me? Something unusual has been happening on the last 3 discovery calls that I had. Person comes on and says something similar to this. I can't believe it's you. You're exactly who I thought you were. I've seen you on your online courses, and you are real. I'm thinking, yeah, I love this because what's happening is they're not thinking about, hey, whether or not she's going to be good. They're thinking, hey, what I see is what I'm going to get. And that's exactly who I am. Who I am on the videos is who I am when I work with you. And that's just an incredible experience because I know that that's communicating that I'm credible, that I'm real, that they can trust me. And what's great about that is the trust is already built. Before they got on that call, they already trusted me. They already thought, well, goodness, I really want to work with her. And in the world of AI characters, in the world of made-up, scripted presentations, people are looking for someone that they can relate to, someone that they can say, hey, this is what's really going on for me, and I trust that you can help me with that. And that's exactly what I do. So you don't have to talk first about the numbers, about the scope of things. You can say, let's get to the heart of the matter. And that's what I want to do in order to make sure that the skills that we are working on together are skills that you can use that are going to break through all of the things that you've been dealing with. You come to me and you're thinking, this is impossible stuff. People are not getting along. People are not talking to each other. And personally, as a leader, I don't want to deal with it. That's really what happens with my clients. And the reality is I show them that you can come to me and I can teach you how to shift conflict in the room, how to ease the tension in the room. But I also teach you life skills that are going to transform the relationships that you have now, that you're going to have in the future. And that, I mean, you can't even really put a price on that because what I'm doing with people in their lives and in their business is I'm giving them permission to be vulnerable, to be themselves, but also to engage in conflict in ways that most people don't. I'm giving them the ability to walk into rooms and shift the tension that's there, to be able to use the kinds of skills that most people are not using. And when you have that, you have everything. People work with me because I'm real, I know what I'm doing, and I can help them to change the kinds of things they've been running from in their business and their lives for years. What have I enjoyed most about this experience? Number one, that what they said I would get, I got. That's big for me because when you invest, you don't always get the worth of your investment. Number two, I got real people who are faith people. That's important to me, but also people who want to get it right, not just for themselves, but for me as well. So I got professionalism, I got kindness, I got caring, and I got confidence and encouragement. And I know I've got a great product in the end of things, and from beginning to end, it's the kind of experience that really, no matter what, you gotta enjoy. And I've enjoyed every minute of doing this work to make this come to life.
I am Norma Eli. I am Norma Eli, the founder and CEO of Next Season, Inc., a woman in service-disabled, veteran-owned small business providing government consulting and faith-based coaching services. What makes me great is I am a child of God with spiritual gifts from God as a visionary who can solve difficult, complex problems that no one will attempt to solve. The Lord blessed me with problem-solving gifts of the Spirit, and I love impossible tasks. Through my fruits of the Spirit, I rest when everything that should be resolved is completed, and I really enjoy my wonderful gifts and talents the Lord gave me when I was born. God's wonderful gifts, problem-solving, allowed me to work with the FAA for 38 years as the air traffic controller. And when I returned home from serving 18 months in Iraq, the FAA asked me to go to Andrews Air Traffic Control Tower as the air traffic manager. No one wanted to take on the task of being the air traffic manager at Andrews because a helicopter crashed on final back in 2008, except for me. The Lord had prepared me for solving impossible conflicts, decision tasks with perfectly thought out decision-making solution for what was needed at Andrews. When I accepted the challenge and demanding job as the first Black female air traffic manager at Andrews, the home of Air Force One, our first Black president, Barack Obama, was elected into office, which was a history-making event. Glory, hallelujah. Thank the Lord. The first toughest challenge was being involuntarily transferred from Baltimore Air Traffic Control Tower to Potomac Tracon in Warrenton, Virginia, over 50 miles away, and having to find a new place to live. Then finding out shortly afterwards that I had been involuntarily transferred to a unit in Richmond, Virginia, to deploy to Iraq for 18 months. As a single woman with no family nearby to help me, I had to rent out the new townhouse I built in Warrenton, Virginia, and sell my car and put everything in storage. I did not know anything or anybody in the new reserve unit I deployed with, except 5 soldiers who were involuntarily transferred with me from my Fort Belvoir unit. I was a major, and once we arrived into Iraq, I was sent further north to a glorified truck stop in the middle of nowhere called Scania, with 2 soldiers I did not know to operate a convoy support center. I begged one of my soldiers from the Fort Belvoir unit to go to Scania with me, and initially he said no. That night, the Lord revealed to me in a dream that there was nothing to worry about, and showed me Scania's 12-foot concrete barriers that surrounded it, and told me everything would be okay. The next morning, the soldier from the Fort Belvoir unit had a change of heart, glory, hallelujah, and went with me and the other 2 unfamiliar soldiers to Scania. When we arrived at Scania, the active duty battalion we were replacing advised me that I needed more soldiers, at least a battalion size, to do the jobs they were currently doing. And they prepared an operations briefing for me to send to my commander, asking for more soldiers. Our higher headquarters General Chambers flew into Scania the next day and promoted me in the combat to a battalion commander, and brought with him active duty staff, and sent me other soldiers from the Army Reserves, National Guard, to complete my battalion. The second toughest challenge was returning home from Iraq 18 months later and finding myself homeless because my townhouse was still rented out and I had nowhere to live. My childhood friend who lived in Maryland offered me a room in her 1-bedroom condo to live on a blow-up mattress on the floor. My Fort Belvoir soldier, who became my command sergeant major in Scania, dropped me off at the condo and saw where I was going to live. And he offered me a room in his 3-bedroom house where he lived alone. And I took him up on the offer. 3 months later, I was dating my battle buddy. And 7 months later, we married. What was tough was we really did not know each other than serving together as a battle buddy in Iraq, or that we both suffer from PTSD. I did not know it, and his PTSD was more severe than mine. He had served in 4 active duty conflicts before Iraq and never received any PTSD treatment. He had never been married and had an 8-year-old daughter. I learned that God was in control, and without him, I could do nothing, except I did not know that at the time. The Lord prepared a way for me through it all, moving from Baltimore Tower into a new FA facility in Warrenton, Virginia, and helped me transition during the 2 involuntary transfer assignments without being stressed completely out. Because it was only me, a single air traffic controller, an Army Reserve officer, without anyone to leave things to maintain and be there when I redeployed back home again. I learned the lessons that I captured in my first book, Bye Bye Deployment, Hello Enjoyment, which will help deploying soldiers and their families to better understand what to expect when they are faced with involuntary deployments and how to help their soldier when returning back home afterwards. I learned that I lost sight of the plan I had made before deploying, which was to become a 1-star general, which I was on point to become. I now know that PTSD is real, and I suffered from it and was down deep in the mud and did not know it. Mud is mental mind understanding of distractions by destructive decisions, darkness, despair, and drinking. I learned that the Lord sent me to help me take my eyes off of man and to put my eyes on him. He sent someone to tell me that not one time, but twice, before I finally realized that I was going through and was stuck in the mud along with my battle buddy. I took my eyes off man and put them on the Lord, and he pulled me up out of the mud and told me what for the next season of my life he had for me to do. And that's why I am here today to share God's word with millions and to start doing his will. Glory, hallelujah. I would tell my 21-year-old self to take my eyes off man and to keep my eyes on the Lord, always, and to get up every morning and read the daily word and read the entire chapter and meditate with God before I put my feet on the ground, to open my eyes and to thank the Lord for another beautiful day, because this is a day that the Lord has made, and I would rejoice and be glad for another beautiful day on this earth. I would tell myself to save at least $10 every time I got paid in a Roth IRA or a high-yield savings account, so that when I turned 51, I would have saved money without thinking about it and would be better set up for retirement. I will also tell me to live by God's basic instructions before leaving earth, the Bible, so that I would be smarter and wiser as a God-fearing Christian woman to prevent me from making all of the bad decisions that I made and had to repent for afterwards. I would tell myself to live by God's commandments always, and that Galatians 5:22 and 23 will represent her character, produced by the Holy Spirit in her life, which is love, peace, joy, forbearance, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Glory, hallelujah. I am doing fantastic today because I am here making this episode of the making of what God has blessed me to be, and that is a faith-based, God-fearing entrepreneur, and grateful for this opportunity to share my story with millions of people. Next Season Inc. is what the Lord has provided for me for the next season of my life here on earth. And I am here as a faith-based life coach to help military service members and their families and others who are or maybe stuck in the mud and do not know it find their way out like I did, reading and receiving and applying God's word to their lives every day. Also, as a faith-based woman, service disabled veteran, owned business, providing over 38 years of operational expertise in government consulting and air traffic control operations, aviation, safety, leadership, development, workforce training, management, and logistics consulting, according to God's word. The Lord has blessed me strategically to understand the needs of government, state, and local industries, to assist them in figuring out their needs to help their organization run more smoothly and economically without worrying about anything. With God, they will be able to do wondrous, lucrative business opportunities every time. God's revelation to me is that he wants me to help his children, and that's what I intend to do if given the opportunity. Glory, hallelujah. People will hire Next Season Inc. because I am a faith-based and the Lord is with me and has been guiding and directing me all my life. Which started when I was a child growing up in Gosport, Alabama, and my big mama was a beautiful God-fearing woman of God. And everyone who encountered her, fruits of her spirit, and she taught me her untiring work ethics as an uneducated midwife back in 1965. She was a visionary and talented caregiver who feared and trusted God with integrity, which I inherited from her. I will always do the right thing when no one's watching and will always align my actions with companies and individuals' core values. Next Season offers honesty, truthfulness, consistency, accountability, moral courage, and internal unity, always because the Lord is with me. Glory, hallelujah, and amen. Thank you once again for this wonderful opportunity to help market Next Season Inc. to the world. What I enjoyed about going through this experience is it gave me an opportunity to share my story and my vision with millions of people. And the wonderful staff here make me feel very comfortable and take care of me. And it's just a wonderful marketing opportunity. And I would recommend this to anyone that has a business and would like to share their story with millions of people as well. Thank you all. God bless.
When I think back to how I developed my superpower of empathy, it started in childhood. I wasn't loud, I wasn't trying to stand out, but I noticed people. I remember being at John Muir Elementary School in Long Beach, California, standing at the edge of the playground, watching a group of kids corner another student. The words they used were mean. The laughter was intentional, and I remember thinking, could someone say something? Then realizing that someone is me. So I walked over. I didn't have the perfect words or a plan, but I stood close. I spoke up. Sometimes I found an adult to help. It wasn't about bravery. It felt more like responsibility. Like God was in me saying, you're supposed to do something here. My heart was racing, and I remember wondering if I had just made things harder for myself. Silence felt worse than speaking, even when I was scared. That instinct often put me in conflict with bullies, and sometimes even with teachers who didn't want disruption. I questioned why someone was being mistreated, and that questioning made me visible. I learned something early. When you interrupt injustice, you're not always protected. Sometimes you become the target. Being a leader wasn't something I chased. It showed up around me. My father once told me, any room you walk into, you'll end up leading it. I didn't see it then, but he did. As I matured and found myself leading different groups, I realized he was right. The work I do today didn't start in a classroom or with a career decision. It started with awareness and a willingness to protect others, even when it was uncomfortable. That part of me never went away. It just grew. This was never something I chose. It was something I answered. And that calling still guides everything I do today. Some of my most significant challenges weren't dramatic. They were subtle, long-term, and formative. The first challenge came with leadership itself. From an early age, I became the one others leaned on, the responsible one. the problem solver, the steady presence. My mother said I was always just that way. Over time, that identity became my default. I became the superwoman. Not because I wanted to be everything, but because others depended on me. And I learned to normalize it. I normalized responsibility. I normalized carrying too much. I confused strength with self-sacrifice. I didn't think of it as burnout. I thought of it as responsibility. But leadership that requires everything of you comes with consequences. That's why I reject the idea that strong women must carry everything. Strength that demands self-abandonment is not resilience. Strength isn't proven by how much you can tolerate, but by how much you care for yourself. The second challenge came later, when I learned what it costs to ignore my own needs. In 2020, my body forced a conversation I had been postponing. What I thought was stress, what I thought I could push through, turned into a health scare that made it very clear. Something had to change. That mistake wasn't that I didn't know better. I did. I knew better. That mistake was believing I could keep going without consequence. That moment became a pause, one I didn't choose, but desperately needed. It taught me this. Resilience isn't about how much you can endure. It's about how early you respond. Ignoring discomfort doesn't make it disappear. It makes it louder later. Challenges don't just shape resilience. They reveal where support is missing. That understanding changed how I live, how I practice, and how I lead today. Looking back, some lessons consistently stand out. They didn't arrive all at once. They emerged over time through experience and integration. The first lesson, strength isn't proven by how much you can tolerate. Endurance is often praised, but without recovery, it becomes unsustainable. Resilience isn't built by pushing past limits. It's built by responding to your needs before limits are forced on you. That realization changed how I show my self-care. For me, self-love isn't abstract. It's how I stand grounded and engaged with how I'm actually doing and feeling. It looks like pausing long enough to ask myself what I need and being willing to give it to myself. Over time, I developed a framework for how I practice this. I call it caress because resilience should feel like care, not endurance. Compassion for yourself. Speaking to myself the way I talk to someone I love. Compassion toward myself felt awkward at first, like something I knew how to do for others, but not for me. Acceptance for yourself. Meeting myself where I am, not where I think I should be. Rest. Honoring recovery as part of strength, not weakness. Eating well and exercising, nourishing my body with intention. Social support, letting others hold space for me, not just the other way around. Self-care, making small, consistent choices that protect my well-being. The second lesson, confidence, can delay care. When you're capable, people assume you're fine, and eventually you start assuming that too. That's why small, consistent choices shape outcomes more than dramatic effort. Sometimes that means stepping back, being unavailable for a period of time, creating space, not to disengage, but to restore. Because when I re-engage, I do so with more clarity, more presence, or more capacity. This is the work I teach. I help others learn how to be gentle with themselves, to pause, to listen, and to respond with care before depletion becomes the teacher. Resilience isn't about endurance, it's about integration. If I were sitting on a couch with my 21-year-old self, I wouldn't correct her. I would ground her. At 21, I was driven, capable, and already carrying more than I should have been. I was determined to prove myself. I thought strength meant never stopping. If I could sit with her now, I would offer her 3 principles. First, could you listen earlier, pay attention to your body and your intuition sooner than you think you need to? Listening early is an act of self-love. Your body will tell you what it needs. The question is whether you'll honor it before it demands your attention. Second, build slowly. Consistency will take you further than intensity ever will. You don't have to prove your strength through exhaustion. The work you're building doesn't require you to break yourself to matter. And third, choose alignment. Success isn't about approval, it's about sustainability. Caring for yourself isn't a detour from your purpose. It's how you stay connected to it. And if she looked back at me and said, if I slow down, who's going to hold everything together? I would tell her, you don't have to hold it all. You just have to hold yourself. You're not responsible for everyone. You're responsible for yourself first. So you can show up fully for others. That's not selfish. That's sustainable leadership. There's a challenge today that we don't talk about enough, and it prevents so many capable, accomplished people from living the lives they've worked so hard to build. The problem is this: people don't have the right mindset about what strength actually requires. We've been taught that resilience means endurance, that leadership means sacrifice, and that caring for yourself is something you do after everything else is taken care of. But that belief creates exhausted people, capable but depleted, successful but disconnected. What holds them back isn't a lack of strength. It's the belief that strength shouldn't require support. This mindset says rest is optional, asking for help is weakness, and pausing means failing. I see it every single day in my practice. High-performing professionals, military families, leaders who've been holding it all together for years. They come to me capable but tired. Not because they're doing it wrong, but because they've been doing it alone. One of my clients recently told me, I thought if I could just get through this season, then I could rest. And I asked her, how many seasons have you said that? She didn't answer. Her shoulders just dropped. Because fulfillment doesn't come from getting through. It comes from being present while you're in it. The solution isn't working harder or being tougher. You're tough enough. It's changing the mindset that says you have to carry everything alone. It's about building habits that support your life, not consume it. Today, I'm more intentional than I've ever been. Not because everything is perfect, but because I'm paying attention. I run a virtual counseling practice serving U.S. military families and professionals worldwide. I'm the author of Embraceable Me, Crowned with Self-Love, and Radiate Self-Love, which teach the Caress framework so others can build resilience that supports real life. I'm focused on work that is aligned, impactful, and sustainable, not just busy. What's next for me is expansion without losing the heart of the work, because the people I serve are ready for that shift, ready to lead without exhaustion, to care for others without abandoning themselves, and to build lives that feel as good as they look. That's the work. That's what fulfillment actually requires. Here's what I noticed that most people miss. I can look at someone who seems like they have it all together and immediately spot the part of them that's barely holding on. Not in a judgmental way, in a way that says, I see you. I walk into conversations with high achievers, leaders, military families, professionals who look like they have it all together. Within minutes, I can tell who's running on fumes, who's smiling but exhausted, who's capable but crumbling quietly, who's been strong for so long they've forgotten what rest feels like. And instead of applauding their grind, I give them something more people never do: permission. Permission to stop. Not permission to quit, permission to breathe. People don't come to me because they're failing. They come because they've been strong for a long time and they're tired of carrying everything alone. Most of the people who work with me are capable, responsible, and deeply committed leaders in their families, organizations, and communities. What they're looking for isn't someone to tell them to push harder. They're looking for someone who understands what it costs to always be the one others depend on. People choose to work with me because I meet them with steadiness, not pressure. I listen carefully to what's said and to what's been carried quietly for years. I don't rush their process. I help them slow down enough to understand what their life and body are asking of them. The hardest part for most people isn't learning how to rest. It's tolerating the guilt that comes with it. People often tell me they feel clearer, more grounded, and more present after working with me. Not because everything disappears, that's not going to happen, but because they stop ignoring themselves while showing up for others. They work with me because I understand how to build flexibility from the inside out. I don't just teach it, I model it. I help people care for themselves with the same acceptance and compassion they've spent years offering to everyone else. That's what working with me offers. Not a quick fix, not a performance boost, but emotional steadiness, mental clarity, and a resilience that actually supports life. This experience has allowed me to really look at how I have been pushing and working, and how I have now learned how self-love, that radical self-love, really helps you to take care of yourself, and been able to help others start to learn the same. I want to be the person who gets radical self-love out there so that people give themselves permission to take care of themselves first. And going through this experience has allowed me to really formalize that, to put it down on paper and to think through it. So as I talk to more people about it, I'm clear about the message, and I am going to help them to find their message and learn their process and understand how important they are. Before you pour into others, pouring into yourself is essential. Remember, self-care, radical self-care, radical self-love isn't selfish, it's essential. It helps you to sustain the life that you want for yourself. And that's what I want to say.
You want to know what I do? I see the moment a company stops scaling before the leader does. I work with CEOs who've built something real, 20, 50, 100 people. From the outside, it looks like it's working. Inside, something starts to change. What used to feel simple starts to feel heavy. Decisions take longer. More people get involved. Teams hesitate. And somehow, everything still comes back to you. And you start asking a question you can't quite answer. Why is this so hard now when we're more successful than ever? I know that feeling because I built in it. I built a company that worked. It is strong. It is growing. It is making an impact. But it was built the way most companies are built, on me. My ability to decide, my ability to step in, my ability to carry it. And for a long time, that works. Until it doesn't. I had an injury that should have taken me out. And for the first time, I wasn't there to hold everything together. And what I saw, it changed everything. Things didn't just slow down, they got dropped. Important things, clients got missed. And in my world, lives were on the line. Not because my team didn't care, and not because they weren't capable, but because the system didn't hold without me. And that's when I saw it clearly. For the first time, this isn't a people problem. It's not communication. It's actually structure. The company only worked when I was there to carry it. And that's what I get to do now. I work with leaders who built successful companies, but are starting to feel the weight of them, where everything still depends on them, even though it shouldn't. I show them where the system is breaking and how to rebuild it. So decisions move, so teams actually own things, so the company can scale without them holding it together. Because if your company only works when you're holding it together, it doesn't work. And over time, you don't notice it at first, but it's not just slowing the company down. It's actually killing you. People ask me what shaped the way I see organizations now. For me, it came down to two challenges. The first one, it looked like success. I started from nothing. I had a vision. I worked. I earned trust. And we built something real. It grew. More people, more responsibility, more impact. And I did what most founders do. I carried it. I made the decisions. I stepped in when things got unclear. I made sure nothing broke. And because it was working, I didn't question it. But what I didn't see at the time was that I wasn't building a strong organization. I was building one that depended on me. Every decision, every escalation, every moment that required clarity, it came back to me. And because I could handle it, I let it continue. That was the first challenge, success that hides the problem. The second challenge was harder to see. As we grew, I built a leadership team, and I believed we were aligned. We'd sit in meetings, have the conversations, make the decisions, and I'd walk out thinking, we're clear. But then something started happening. As those decisions moved through the organization, they didn't hold. They weren't just slightly off. They were 90% off. Different priorities, different interpretations, different actions. And it created chaos. Teams pulling in different directions, work getting redone, decisions getting questioned. And I kept having to step back in, to realign, to clarify, to fix what should have already been clear. Not because my leaders didn't care, and not because they weren't capable, but because we weren't structurally aligned, and the system didn't hold that alignment. So everything started to slow down. More conversations, more coordination, more involvement from me. And once again, I became the point everything ran through. That's when I started to understand something. Growth doesn't just add complexity, it exposes what your structure can't sustain. And these two challenges, building something that depended on me and watching alignment break as we scaled, that's what changed how I see every organization. Because what I went through, it wasn't unique. It's predictable. And most leaders don't see it until everything starts getting harder than it should be. There's a question I used to ask all the time. Why does this have to be this hard? And it showed up in very specific moments. We already had a meeting. We'd already made the decision. We'd already aligned the team. And then it would come back wrong. Different direction, different priority, different execution. And I find myself thinking, how are we here again? Why am I solving the same thing twice when we already solved it? And for a long time, I thought it was a people problem. So I did what most leaders do. I leaned in, more meetings, more conversations, more involvement from me. I invested in my team. I brought in consultants. I tried to fix the communication. And for a moment, it felt like it worked. But it didn't hold. We ended up right back in the same place. And that's when I realized something. It wasn't that we were fixing it the wrong way. We were actually fixing the wrong thing. And what I didn't realize at the time was that this wasn't just frustrating, it was expensive. Every time a decision didn't hold, every time work had to be redone, every time something came back to me, we were paying for it in time, in energy, in lost momentum. This is what I now call the hidden trust tax. And most leaders don't even see it because it doesn't show up on a financial statement, but it's there every single day. And it compounds. The longer it's there, the more it costs. And here's the part that leaders miss. They think they're dealing with a people problem. They think it's communication. They think it's execution, but it's not. It is structure. When your structure doesn't hold, alignment does not stick. So decisions turn into interpretation. And interpretation turns into misalignment. And misalignment shows up as execution that's off, even when everyone is trying to do the right thing. That's why it feels hard, because the system is fighting the work. So every time you solve something, you have to solve it again. You can substitute people, you can add more process, but if the structure doesn't hold, it will always come back to you. And over time, you don't notice it at first, but the cost keeps building. And this is where most leaders get stuck. They don't realize what they're actually dealing with. They miss it. And because they miss it, they keep paying for it. You start to realize something. This isn't random. There are patterns. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. There are 3 things every organization must get right, or everything slows down. And eventually, it comes back to you. Alignment, decisions, execution. Principle number 1, alignment must hold. Alignment is not a conversation, it's a condition. If alignment only exists in your meetings, it doesn't really exist. You can agree in the room, walk out feeling clear, and still watch it fall apart. Because when alignment doesn't hold, people interpret. And when people interpret, priorities drift. And when priorities drift, everything pulls apart. And it comes back to you. Principle 2, decisions must move. Most leaders think speed comes from better people. It doesn't. Structure determines the speed of trust, and trust determines how fast your company moves. When trust is low, people hesitate. They check, they escalate, they wait, and your company slows down to the speed of permission. But when trust is built into the system, decisions move. Ownership is clear, authority is defined, people act. Because your company doesn't move at the speed of your team, it moves at the speed of trust in your structure. Principle 3, execution must hold. If you have to check it, it doesn't hold. If you have to follow up, it's not reliable. If you have to stay involved, the system is broken. Execution should not depend on you. It should be built into the work. Clear expectations, clear ownership, clear definition of done. So when work moves, it holds the first time. If alignment doesn't hold, decisions slow down. If decisions slow down, execution breaks. And when execution breaks, everything comes back to you. Because where the system doesn't hold, trust leaks. And when trust leaks, friction shows up. Things slow down, work gets heavier, until eventually it all comes back to you. And once you see this, you stop asking, how do I fix my team? And you start asking, where is the structure failing to hold? The first thing I noticed was the silence. The interruptions stopped. Fewer things hit my desk. And the things that did hit my desk actually needed me. Before that, it was constant. Questions, decisions, clarifications, fixes, things that should have been handled, but they kept coming back to me. And I didn't realize how heavy that was until it stopped. Because when the structure started to hold, things didn't need intervention. Decisions didn't get reopened. Work didn't come back reworked. Teams didn't need constant direction. And for the first time, I wasn't holding everything together. The structure was. And for the first time in a long time, I could breathe. I wasn't reacting all day. I wasn't buried in decisions. I could focus on the things only I was supposed to do. Vision, direction, where we were going next. And that changes everything. Because now alignment holds, decisions move, execution speeds up. This is what I call the architecture of trust. When the structure holds, trust holds. And when trust holds, the organization moves. Execution doesn't stall. It moves. It holds. It gets done without coming back. And your role evolves. You're not reacting. You're leading. You're not in the weeds. You're looking ahead. You're not carrying the organization. You're shaping where it's going. And that's the difference. Most leaders never experience. Because all they've known is more growth, more complexity, more pressure. But it doesn't have to feel that way. Because when the structure holds, trust holds. And when trust holds, things don't come back. You don't just get a better company. You get your capacity back. And once that happens, everything changes. You stop asking, how do I keep up with this? And you start asking, what do we build next? And for the first time in a long time, you start thinking beyond the next problem. You start thinking about what's possible again. You start dreaming again. Not about survival, not about keeping things from breaking, but about what this could actually become. Just like when it was easy. By the time most leaders get here, they already know something isn't working. They felt it. Things taking longer than they should. Decisions not holding. Work coming back. And no matter what they try, it keeps coming back to them. They've hired people. They've invested in their team. They've brought in help. And still, it doesn't hold. And at some point, they stop asking, what do I need to fix? And they start asking, why does this keep happening? And that's usually when they find me. Not because they want another strategy, not because they need more advice, but because they've realized something. This isn't a people problem. It's not communication. It is structure. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. You start to recognize it everywhere, where alignment doesn't hold, where decisions slow down, where execution breaks, and more importantly, where trust is leaking. And here's what most leaders don't realize. This isn't small. Companies lose millions every year because of the hidden trust tax. Not in one big moment, but in the accumulation. Decisions that don't move, work that has to be redone, opportunities that get missed. It adds up and it compounds. And if you're responsible for the company, you are responsible for that. Because structure determines the speed of trust. and trust determines how fast your organization moves. So when the structure doesn't hold, trust breaks. And when trust breaks, everything slows down. Decisions, execution, the entire organization. That's where the cost comes from. But when the structure holds, trust holds. And when trust holds, everything moves. Alignment holds, decisions move, execution speeds up. Work doesn't come back. Decisions don't stall. The organization moves. This is the trust dividend, and it compounds too. So this isn't a question of, do I need this? It's already happening. You're either paying the hidden trust tax or you're collecting the trust dividend. Which one are you compounding? And leadership starts to look different. Most people think leadership means being the one others follow. But at scale, that's not enough. Because if people have to follow you, the structure can't hold. Real leadership builds something stronger. It builds something others can follow without you at the center of everything. And that's what I call the architecture of trust. It's how you move from paying the hidden trust tax to collecting the trust dividend. And that's the work I do. I help leaders see where their structure isn't holding and how to rebuild it. So alignment holds, decisions move, execution speeds up without everything coming back to them. Because if your company only works when you're holding it together, it doesn't work. And at some point, you have to decide, do I keep managing around this, or do I finally fix what's actually causing it? And finally, get my life back. One of the things that I truly love about getting the opportunity to make the Entrepreneur docuseries is that I really wanted to have someone that could professionally walk alongside of me. I do a lot of videotaping, a lot of being in front of the camera, and I have never really had someone sit down with me and work through my scripts and messaging to go after the target audiences that I wanted to, and to pull out of me the different stories that should be used, because a lot of times you and I, when we're thinking about our stuff, we go, oh, that's not really that important. But when someone else can see and that they are working for your good, then it's so nice to hear them affirm things and go, no, you need to tell that. That's important. And so it just was wonderful to have someone that could come alongside me, help me put the storylines together, and then help me walk through the process. The whole process has been very professional, and that's a big deal for me. I like to know when we're doing things, what we're doing it, and how we're doing it, and everything, all of the details were handled, and the communication was great. And over and over, whenever I had a question, they took care of that, and just made it super easy. There's been lots of times I've shot video, I've had to wait forever, and it just seemed to be like a chore to do. And this has been a lot of fun. It's been refreshing, and I look forward to seeing the final product. And if I were you and I was trying to think through, whether or not I should do this, I would say, you know what? It's probably been worth every penny, and it will serve me well as I continue to go both in my nonprofit work and in some of the new joint ventures that I'm doing. So if I were you, I'd jump in and I'd do it.
Imagine being everything for everybody and not doing what you need to do for yourself. That has been my story for a long time. In 2021, I was diagnosed with a terminal illness called pulmonary fibrosis, which means my lungs are stiffening and I will need a double lung transplant. The impact of that, it shifted my entire world. I had no idea what life would look like for me moving forward. Hearing from the doctor that I was terminally ill, there was no reversal for it, all I could hear was a death sentence. I knew I would not be the vibrant person, the overachiever, the all things, do everything for everyone that I was before. But what I also realized that I was slowly burning myself out while trying to be everything for everyone else. That led me to be the founder and CEO of Gold Mind Thoughts. When I started to pour into myself, when I sat down and I decided that I needed to show up for the person who has always showed up for everyone else. In doing so, I now train, shape, mold individuals, organizations, and communities, not only shifting their mind, but improving their workplace culture, stopping burnout, but also turning them into the individuals that they deserve to be. At Gold Mind Thoughts, we practice from a science and proven evidence-based framework that unlocks your gold mind. It turns you into the person that you are destined to be by training you up, sideways, and downwards, to allowing you to bring the best, allowing you to shape and reshape your professional, your personal, but making sure that you are whole, so you are no longer leading from wounds, but leading from wisdom. Let's talk about grief. Many people hear the term grief and they think about grieving someone who has passed away. But what happens when you have to grieve the living? I know a lot about that. And grieving the living, I had to learn what it looked like to grieve myself as being someone who is now terminally ill, need a double lung transplant, have right side heart failure, and also have lupus. I'm not able to run up and down the sidelines with my son or with my great niece anymore. But what I am able to do, I am able to use every day as a lesson. I am able to take that challenge that may have broken others, but actually it just shifted gears for me. It allowed me to dig in deep and step into a purpose that God was now bestowing upon me. So this purpose leads me to reshape the way individuals think about grief. It allows me to use my challenges as a vehicle to push me forward, to push boundaries, and to never get comfortable with just being comfortable, because comfortability is nothing but conformability, and you don't want to be conformed. You want to make sure that you are shifting. You want to make sure that you are challenging. You want to make sure that you are growing and always developing. So my grief has taught me, what those challenges has taught me, is to use this thing called life as a vehicle that's going to continue to ever change. I am no longer allowing life to live me. I am now living life. Let's talk about intentionality. I'm going to take you to a day that is painful to talk about, but it's necessary to talk about, because there's so many people in the world right now who is experiencing something similar. In 2017, I lost my only nephew to gun violence. I can remember clear as day. I was at work prepping for my son's senior night at high school. He's a football player. I was preparing all the big bobbleheads, and we were just all getting ready for senior homecoming. And I got the phone call that said Melcorn has been shot. And in that moment, like my body froze. I had no idea what to do because so many things was happening in my mind. Like, shot, what do you mean shot? How could somebody do this to us, our family, people who are always in the community, people who are always giving more than they have? Like, everyone knows our family. How could this happen? And as I was rushing to the hospital, I remember seeing my sister as my brother-in-law was walking towards us, and he was shaking his head. And in that moment, we knew. And my sister just fell to the ground, and she let out such a heavy scream that it shifted me out of my body, because I knew at that moment, I not only lost my nephew, but I lost my sister as well. I may not have lost her in the sense of her passing, but I did lose in the sense of she lost her mind. And so that brings me to intentionality, because it's important that you pay attention and you spend time with those who mean the most to you. It's important that you use your personal days at work. It's important that you use your sick days to go to the doctor and check up. It's important that you not pass up on family activities, because you never know when it's going to be the last time that you see someone. I raised my nephew side by side with my sister. So for me, it was like losing my child as well. And then from that, I just went into saving mode. I knew that I had to keep my sister here. I knew that I had to make sure that my son was okay, because he lost his biggest brother, he lost his cousin, his confidant, all wrapped up in one. But most importantly, what I didn't realize is I didn't realize that I was losing myself mentally, and I was showing up to work leading from wounds instead of wisdom. I was causing harm to those that I was working with, because I was leading from anger. And I don't want that to happen to you. So I want you to be intentional about how you spend your time, who you are around, and the way you show up at work. If I could go back in time and talk to my 21-year-old self, I would say, girl, come on, let's sit down, let's have a chat, because I have some things to tell you. First, I want to say dream big. And why dreaming big is important? I would share this story with her about remembering what it felt like in high school, sitting in the back of the classroom, and realizing that everyone else was moving on with their life, but I was stuck in fear. So I didn't go to college right away. I didn't go to college right away because I listened to someone else that told me that I probably wasn't ready to be out on my own. And so right there in that moment, it shot my dreams down. And so I want to say to her, dream big, dream in color, but dream with action. Even if that action means you doing something that everyone else is telling you wouldn't be great for, I want you to go for it. Next, I would say, live by your own expectations. And tying into me not going into college right away, I then became the person who always wanted to please other people, because I was so busy trying to be that whoever someone else wanted me to be. I was so busy trying to be perfect for other people, but my dreams were sitting on the sideline. I didn't publish my books right away. I stopped writing. I stopped being super creative because other people told me I needed to do something else, or that wasn't fit for me, being someone of plus size. And so I want you to make sure that you are setting your own expectations and you are living up to your own rules, standards, and boundaries. not anyone else's. And lastly, I want you to live life to the fullest. Don't wait for someone else to bring you along. If it's something that you want to do and you can't find a vehicle, build it. I wanted to be a scientist, and so I didn't go about it the way the traditional way that everyone else said to go. I needed to do, but what I did do was I did my own homework. I did my own research, and although it took me through different challenges and different roadblocks, I never gave up on myself. And that meant staying in college a little longer, starting a little late, working multiple jobs. However, I'm proud of who I am now. And so I want you to know that you will be proud of who you become once you start living for yourself. So dream big, live up to your own expectations, and live life without any regrets. In just the last year, more than 400,000 Black women lost their jobs. That is a lot of women starting over. That is a lot of brilliance that went out the door. That is a lot of trauma that has been inflicted. I mention that because right now we are in a state of emergency. We are in a state of emergency where women all over the world are having to start over, and they sometimes don't know where to do it because they were operating from I'm doing just fine, not realizing that they were still in the trenches. They had the best job, great salary, nice cars, can travel what they want. But then when that was snatched away, they were brought to a place of redefining themselves. And that's where I come in at. At Gold Mine Thoughts, we not only reshift and shape and mold your mindset, we help develop you so that you can utilize the brilliance you already possess and turn it into something wonderful. We help you architect your new life. At Gold Mine Thoughts, we use evidence-based approaches that allow you to step into your purpose. So what I'm going to be doing, what we're going to be doing, is we are going to be healing the world. We are going to be changing the way we show up in boardrooms, the way we show up in our communities, and the way we show up in life. I'm going to be working with you side by side. This is not a framework that you can get anywhere else. Where else can you get a doctoral, researched behavioral scientist who have lived and walked in similar shoes as you? There are a lot of consultants out there, but they don't bring what I bring to the table. Every program, every framework that I have is built and curated to unlock your golden mindset. It brings you a golden experience from trauma to triumph to our Gold Mine 8-step framework, along with mental mapping methodology, all intellectual property that I curated from myself. So if you're ready to stop living and operating from survival mode, and you're ready to start thriving, then Gold Mine Thoughts is the business for you. Why do companies hire us? They hire us because they're looking for someone that they can trust. They're looking for someone credible. And when you think about trust, you say, well, why do they need to trust you? They need to trust me because when you're dealing with trauma-informed practices, you never know what wounds were going to be open. But you also want to make sure that you have someone that can close them as well. There's no shortage of consultants There's no shortage of coaches that know about trauma, but what there are shortages of are behavioral scientists. There are shortages of behavioral scientists who also are ordained ministers, who are also strong leaders in their community, but who have also lived through all the challenges that they speak to. And so that's how I build that credibility and that trust, because I have walked through the fire and I have come out on the other side. And I have the frameworks that work and proven people behind it, proven strategies behind it. You don't get a cookie cutter approach. What you get is customized systems that are tailored to what your needs are. The goal is to solve your problem, not everyone else's. So let me tell you about a client I had. I was working with this nonprofit organization they were experiencing a lot of high turnover. The employees were unhappy, and they just couldn't really get to where they needed to be. They were doing great work, but they couldn't get exactly to where they needed to be. So they brought me in, and what did I do? I gave them the golden experience. Not only did I triage the situation, but I helped them to understand and see where their pain points were coming from, to develop the systems alongside of them, but left them with sustainable actions that they were able to carry and continue to change and develop. So that's what you get when you're working with Goldmine Thoughts. When you're working with Goldmine Thoughts, you're getting a custom strategic plan that works directly for your organization, for you personally, or for your community. Goldmine Thoughts is about uplifting. Goldmine Thoughts is about shifting. But equally important, Goldmine Thoughts is about helping you architect your legacy. So what did I enjoy about this Making an Entrepreneur docuseries? Where do I start? I don't even know if I have enough time. Let me tell you about Shay Brown and his organization. They not only deliver, but they hold your hand from beginning to end. I mean, from preparation on calls to makeup to styling to just making sure that you are your best self and you are showing up like you already $1 million. And who doesn't want to feel like that? I'm 5'4", but when I walked in here, I was feeling like I was 6'4", and that's what they help do. At Making an Entrepreneur, they allow you to stand in your glory. So if you haven't already signed up to do your docuseries, I don't know what you're waiting for. You better call Shay Brown.
I help people remember who they are, not who the world told them to be, not who they had to become to survive, but who they were before the noise. I'm the creator of I Remember Me, a movement, a passage, and a platform where people reconnect with their identity, their power, and their purpose. What makes me great? Well, I've lived both sides. I've built businesses, created consistent residual income. I've been married for over 30 years. I've raised 2 sons and paid for their education out of pocket. So I've done what most people call success. But I've also experienced what it feels like to have all of that and still know there's something deeper. So I don't speak from theory. I speak from lived experience. I'm not teaching people how to chase more. I'm showing them how to return to themselves. From the outside, everything looks solid. Income, family, stability. But internally, I knew I wasn't fully aligned. That quiet knowing, that was a heavy weight. You know, letting go of an identity that no longer fit was a big thing for me to do as well. Walking away from the insurance industry after years of building it, that wasn't easy. That was income. That was structure. That was my reputation. But I had to choose between staying comfortable or becoming who I truly am. You know, most people don't struggle to build. They struggle to release. That release, that was my turning point. I found that alignment is better than achievement. You know, you can achieve everything and still feel off. But when you're aligned, even small wins feel powerful. One of the things I've also discovered is that you don't become, you remember. You see, everything that you're chasing is already within you. The work is removing what's false, not adding more. And remember that your life is always speaking to you through the frustrations, the success, the transitions. None of it is random. It's all guiding you if you're willing to listen. If I could sit with my 21-year-old self, I'd say this. First, don't chase approval. Chase truth. You'll waste years trying to prove yourself to people who aren't even clear on who they are. Save that time. The second thing I would tell myself is, build something that pays you. Don't let it define you. Create income. Create freedom. But never tie your identity to what you do, because one day you may be called to evolve. The third thing, I say protect your mind. Treat it like it's your greatest asset, because it is. You see, your imagination isn't just thinking, it's creating. So guard it, train it, use it intentionally. Today, I'm grounded, clear, and at peace. You see, I'm 60 years old. I've built the life. I've raised my family. I've created income. And now I'm focused on legacy. What's next is I Remember Me becoming a global platform, a book, a community, a movement, a space for people who have achieved success but know that there's something deeper calling them. You see, I'm no longer chasing money. I'm building something real that naturally produces it. The mission is impact, helping millions of people remember who they are. So why I Remember Me? Well, people come to me because I'm real. There's no hype, there's no performance, no pretending. You see, I've already lived the life that many people are chasing. And I'm honest about what I've worked and what didn't work. They trust me because I'm going to tell them the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. And when they hear me speak, something clicks. Not because I gave them something new, because I helped them to recognize something that they already knew. I helped them remember. What have I enjoyed about the making of the Entrepreneur docuseries? Well, I don't know if they have enough time for that. Because I tell you, the first thing I've experienced was just true professionalism. From the moment I walked through the front door, it felt like you were in a real media environment, right? I mean, I don't do this all the time. This is really my first time being in a professional environment like this, but I've seen it from afar, right? I've watched others do YouTube channels and create commercials and whatnot, and this is the environment that it looks like. And folks, when you come here, they take you by the hand step by step, showing you what it's going to take to make your docuseries something that people will enjoy. From the makeup, to the wardrobe change, to the rehearsing of the cues, stand here, stand there. They do it all. I just had to sit here and try to relax and tell my truth. So if you're thinking about taking advantage of the Entrepreneur docuseries with Shay Brown and the rest of the fantastic folks here, do it. Bet on yourself. Invest in you. And tell the world who you are. Thanks for the opportunity.
I am the Nicole Johnson, founder of The Wealthy Women Lifestyle, where I teach women to define and achieve their goal of financial freedom so they can live life on their terms. Talking about money can be the hardest subject for women. I make it comfortable for them to be able to reveal their truth, reveal their thoughts, and then execute so that they can get into their activation of their new income streams and actually seeing their financial future clearly. Being a divorced single mom, working for the state, where my salary was considered below the poverty line, I decided to become a homeowner. I went to seminars, I went to workshops, and they always told me what to do. They never told me how to do it. Sat with a mortgage lender who looked at my 30-plus page credit report. He told me I'd never be a homeowner. That was the spring of 2008. My children were the reason that I wanted to buy a home. But the fact that he told me no made me dig even deeper so that I could. I had to make some changes. I had to look at my budget. I had to look at my finances and my spending and my money mindset in managing my money. On 9/9 of 2009, I became a first-time homeowner. For me, that was the thing. It's never what you're called. It's always about what you'll answer to. Understanding that my credit report, the pages, they didn't define me. And what that made me realize is that I just had to work a little harder. There wasn't anybody to support me, so I had to dig deep for myself. And the first thing I learned is to focus on my why. Why did I want to become a homeowner? Wasn't just about proving that mortgage lender wrong, even though that was part of it. But I wanted more for myself and for my children. So every time I thought I was going to stop, things became a little challenging. I looked at them and was reminded they were my why. See, when your why is so strong and personal to you, nothing and no one will get in the way of you accomplishing the goal. And sometimes that no one is you. Let me say this. Sometimes we have to understand that we are the problem. Once you can accept that, your magic moment comes in realizing that you are also the solution. If I could go back and talk to my 21-year-old self, there are 3 things that I would explain to her. 1, make sure you understand what the meaning of money is. Like, it's not just to come in and go out, pay bills. No, that is not it. Money is a tool, and I would explain that to her and make sure she understands it. 2, I would also tell her, leave that money in that account and let it grow. Let it grow. Sometimes when you start saving, you don't always understand what you're saving for, but an emergency fund, it's never too early to build one, and let that money in that account just grow. I think the third thing I would tell her, put those two things together and then move. Execute. You're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. You learn the lesson, repeat 1, 2, and 3. You do them a little differently because you've now learned the lesson. Execution. Success moves at the speed of execution. Without execution, everything that you do is just wasting time. And since time is your most valuable commodity, you don't have time to waste. One of the biggest problems that I see that women especially are having in this world is a lack of understanding that they have a money mindset. Their money mindset is about how they manage their money, understanding what money can do for them, and understanding that money management and systems will make them successful so that they can begin to build that wealth. But until you change your money mindset and your relationship with your money, wealth will not come. Let me give you an example. I had a mother and daughter client come to me. They needed assistance because what was happening is the mother was teaching the daughter bad money habits without actually talking to her. It was just watching what the mom did. So if there were bad days at work, hard days at work, I'm going shopping. And who is she taking with her? Her daughter. And then what happened is the daughter had a baby. And now we have 3 generations of women teaching bad habits from one to the next. We talked, we got systems in place, but one day life happened and mom and daughter, dragging the granddaughter along to the mall, went shopping. On the way home, the daughter called and said, we need an intervention. That call for help was a change in mindset for the daughter. So they tell me what they did. They both had a bad day. They spent $600 in the mall, and baby girl is watching. But daughter finally says, I'm taking my things back, and I'm talking to my daughter about why this was not a good decision. Mom says, I'm not taking mine back, Nicole, and I don't care what you say. I said, okay, well, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but let me ask you a question. That money that you spent, what are you going to do to replace it? Because I know it came from the bill account. That was her eye-opening moment. She said, come on, we all going back to the mall. So understanding your relationship with money and how you handle things and how you respond to things is extremely important. I have another client. She came to me. Her father passed away and left her the family home. Unfortunately, that home had a lot of debt attached to it. She couldn't maintain it without filing bankruptcy. Okay, she filed bankruptcy, Chapter 13, and they gave her a 5-year debt payment plan. She called me up. She said, how do I get out of this? I don't want to spend the next 5 years trying to pay off this debt. So at that point, again, I'll ask for help. This is what changed her situation. We implemented work from home strategies, different mindset, different money management, and in 15 months, she paid off $75,000 worth of debt. She now lives debt-free. She now has purchased her own business and is flourishing in that business. And understanding how money moves before she spends it has helped her shift her life around, and she's now creating legacy. Mother, daughter, and granddaughter, now a matriarch, passing things on to her children and grandchildren. When money management becomes a better lifestyle for you, for all of us, not only do we create wealth for ourselves, we create a legacy for the generations to come. What is the reason that people hire me to help them with their money management? Mainly because they need someone that they can trust. talking about money and money issues is a problem because one, women are wearing so many hats, and the last thing they want is someone that's uh, leaking their business across the internet. Okay, but they also want someone that will create a safe space and a no judgment zone. Listen, my clients have bankruptcies, they're six-figure earners, they have no idea where their paycheck went on payday. And that for them is embarrassing. It's a lot of shame and guilt built into that. So being able to talk about where they have messed up in their finances, they've got to have somebody that they can trust. Now, I tell them all the time, I'll tell all their business. I keep their identity a secret because telling our story is what will be the help for someone else. Their identity doesn't matter. It's the relatability that they have in connecting with other women inside of the safe community that I've created. One of my clients, she came along and she said, you know, I have an issue with, I like to buy. I like to buy. I like to buy. She was borderline hoarders, okay? She was one step from being on the show. And when I sat down with her to start the process of examining, which is one of my steps, my tools that I use with them, to examine where those habits came from, she just kept saying, everything was good in my childhood. See, what I do is therapeutic, but I'm not the therapist. So we do go back into the childhood to see where the habit started. But there was a block of her life that she literally had blocked out. She started talking about her parents did this, they were great and wonderful. When I brought her into middle school and high school, she had to actually think what happened to her. It was her parents' divorce. Father went on and moved on with jobs to keep the roof over their head. Really painful, really devastating part of her life, and she completely blocked it out. But now when she's opening that wound and she's looking at it, we didn't know where our next meal might be coming from. It was opening that door that helped her understand why she was hoarding so much. See, the things that she was hoarding wasn't the issue. It was the reason. And once you understand why you're doing something, then you can begin to change. But it was getting to the point that she could trust me enough to share those painful details, and then we moved into the solution. That's why people hire me. They want to first find someone that they can trust, and then find someone that will help put in place systems that will help them move forward from the place that they are so that they can see their dreams come true. What have I enjoyed about the Making of the Entrepreneur series? Listen, there's so many things. Shay Brown and his team are absolutely amazing. They make this very comfortable, a lot of fun. The pictures have been amazing, and I haven't even seen all of them. But really talking through your experience or my experience as an entrepreneur is helping me refine what it is I want to bring to my client. And I couldn't have done that without Shay Brown and his team.